Good afternoon. Hello, 2nd Congressional District. Hello, 2nd Congressional District. Let's hear from you. Welcome to the 2nd Congressional District Town Hall that Democrats do and Republicans don't. We are so excited to have our friend and neighbor from across the river, U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, here today. I'm Russ Carnahan, and I'm proud to be the chairman of the Missouri Democratic Party. We still have people coming in, but we want to go ahead and get started. But many of you got question cards when you came in. We'll have people walking around to grab those, so be sure you get those in. We want to get in as many questions as we can. But we also want to remind folks, we're here to have a conversation. Democrats get that you can do a better job as a representative when you listen and you learn from the people you represent. Democrats have been on the cutting edge of progress in this country for a long time. In Missouri, the Missouri Democratic Party was the first party established west of the Mississippi in 1828. We're going to be celebrating our 200-year anniversary in the next presidential election. We have work to do, but the Democratic Party has been on the cutting edge of so many things that have created progress in our country, from voting rights, civil rights, workers' rights, women's rights, minority rights, strong public schools, clean environment, clean energy, and setting high standards and good examples for our neighbors around the world. The Republican Party, sadly, has not done these things and fought us every step of the way. In Missouri, our motto is the will of the people is the supreme law. Well, Republicans seem to think these days that they're the boss of the people. And that's not the way it works in Missouri. In fact, they've attacked voter-passed initiatives on women's rights, on minimum wage. They're attacking the very right itself that Missourians have to vote on issues in this state. And their latest is to rig the system on how we pick members of Congress, to hide their unpopular agenda, and to stop investigations into their corruption. That's what we're facing today. I'm here joined by many of our Democratic elected officials that represent parts of this congressional district. Please give a hand for Senator Doug Beck, Senator Tracy McCrary, Representative Jacqueline Zimmerman, Representative LaDonna Applebaum, Representative Connie Steinmetz, Representative Bridget Walsh-Moore, Representative Ray Reed, and Representative Joe Dahl. They are on the front lines fighting for you every single day. And I want to ask Senator Doug Beck to come speak for a few minutes. He is the Democratic leader in the Missouri Senate. He's been leading the fight for us there. Please give a big round of applause for Senator Doug Beck.
Thank you. I am Senator Doug Beck. I represent the 1st Senate District, which is South St. Louis County. I'm also privileged to be the minority leader in the Missouri Senate of a great caucus, a solid, great caucus we have of Democrats in the Missouri Senate. I want to start off by saying, first off, on July 23rd, Emanuel Cleaver made the comment that Trump needed to release the Epstein files. On July 25th, Trump called down to the Missouri Republican legislators, the governor and the heads of the Senate and House, and told them he wanted a 7-1 map taking away Representative Cleaver's seat. 2 days later, not a lie, true story. That's what happened. Now, I read the reports at first, and a lot of the leaders of the Republican Party said that they were against that. They didn't want to do it. They went through it in 22. I went through it in 22. It was not a fun time of redistricting. It was painful. They wanted a 7-1 map then. It was too close to being a 5-3 map. All these things were said. But within the 2 days after that, they all succumbed to Donald Trump. They all bent to his will. And I've seen this happen time and time again. This is the same Senate that has told me that they didn't want Washington, D.C. to tell them what to do for the last 9 years. And now they turn around, they're going to draw the maps in Washington, D.C., which they already have. They're going to send them down, there's going to be no choice in this, and they're bringing it there for a vote. And they're doing this for a guy. It's not about power, part of it is they're afraid they're going to lose a seat because of their horrible decisions they've made and policies they've done, giving billionaires tax breaks and taking away health care from the many. And across the board, they've done horrible things. They've ruined labor contracts, and they've got rid of unions within the federal government. And all these people, they've affected their lives. There's going to be massive layoffs coming. All these things are happening. But at the end of the day, what this is truly about is Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein file. Don't believe me, they've said it. Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein file. So Ann Wagner, and now at this point, it would be the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans here. If we go through with this redistricting, they are complicit in helping to protect billionaire pedophiles, rapists, and child molesters. And that's wrong. That's what this is about. That is wrong. They're afraid the House will have subpoena power if it flips over in 26, and they will release those files because they know that is the end of MAGA. They know that is the end of MAGA when they find out that they're child molesters, rapists, and pedophiles. And that is wrong. And as senators in the Missouri Senate, I will tell you we will fight and do what we can to protect those matters. So when you leave here today, just remember that this is what this is about. They're protecting some of the sickest things that I can think of, and it's horrible. And they're doing that, and Ann Wagner is complicit in that. She was, remember the child trafficking and that she was a champion. Where she is on this, they're not saying anything. They're not telling them to release these files. This is crazy that they're getting by with this. So we're going to try to not let that happen. We got to hold strong for Texas. Let's everybody say, give some thought to Texas down there. They're doing a great job. But if Texas goes, Missouri will be next, and they've already said that. But with that, I would like to say, I know this is not a rally, but I do want to say this for sure. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win.
Again, thank you, Senator. Thank you, our legislators, for the fight that they bring every single day. And now, it is a really honor and special privilege. I'm going to introduce the moderator for the town hall tonight. You may have heard of the person that I'm going to describe, but his name is Mark Osmick. He is born and raised here in St. Louis, is a Mizzou grad, an Army combat veteran of 2 tours in Afghanistan, is a former Senator McCaskill, and noteworthy today, former staffer of Senator Duckworth. He is, by the way, the only Democratic candidate announced in the St. Louis County Council District 3 for next year in West St. Louis County. And not only is he committed to giving back to his community in public service, but he also recently, you may have seen it in the news, it made a lot of national news actually, donated a kidney to one of his fellow servicemen. He is married to his wife, Caitlin, who's here, his daughters, Evelyn, Kennedy, and Holland, all are here. And again, please give a warm welcome to Mark Osmek. Mark.
All right, well, good afternoon, 2nd Congressional District. How is everyone? Well, first of all, I want to thank Chairman Russ Carnahan for that very, very kind welcome. Next time I get into an argument with my wife, Caitlin, I'm going to ask him to just come on over and give that introduction and have her roll her eyes and say, that's not going to work, Mark. The kidney process was fantastic. I hope that I look 16 ounces thinner to you. It's just in time for swimsuit season. So my name is Mark Osmek, and so there might be some questions of how does one become a host or a moderator for an event such as this? Well, quite simple. They wanted someone who can provide a physical presence, a voice that can fill auditoriums, a name known throughout St. Louis, a chest that is not concave. Your laughter hurts me. And when Andy Cohen, John Goodman, Liz Glazer, Kevin Kline, John Hamm, and Vincent Price were all unavailable for various reasons, they got me. So here we are. Thank you. But very excited to run for County Council District 3 and remove Dennis Hancock, who likes to hire his own family to do jobs that they shouldn't do. Okay, so the reason why we're here. For a moment, I just want to mention the flag. I want to mention patriotism. The flag does not belong to any party, and certainly not that one. Representative Ann Wagner won't show. We will. That party won't show courage. We will. They will not show love of nation. In fact, they run from it. They run from it like Josh Hawley on January 6th. We haven't forgotten. They won't show commitment. They won't show courage. They won't show love of nation. They won't show true dedication to the flag. They won't show commitment to our veterans. No, they fire them. We will hire them. They will diminish those who have served in the military for 15, 18 years, kick them out without so much as a handshake, without benefits. We will not do that. We will take back this country. It starts here. We will show the commitment, the patriotism, the love of nation that they so often talk about, but so few times actually illustrate and demonstrate. And that is why it is so wonderful for me, on a personal level, to introduce our main speaker tonight, this afternoon. So in 2003, at the time it was Captain Tammy Duckworth. She was in the Illinois Army National Guard, working on her PhD, when she got the call to serve in Iraq. She's a pilot. She deployed, ending her PhD studies. Not too long after she arrived in Iraq, she's on a mission. She's a co-pilot. That's on the right-hand side of the aircraft. When an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade, enters, it enters her side. The aircraft is hit. She's hit. Her right leg from the waist down, from the hip down, gone. Her left leg from the knee down, gone. Her right arm barely hanging on. She's wondering, as everything is moving and spinning in slow motion, why the rudders at her feet won't respond. Then the impact. Later, a medvac, a medical helicopter, lands with others providing security. They toss her on. They don't check her. Her other comrades are wounded from the crash. One of them looks to the flight medic while they're in the air and says, "Get to her first." And without looking, the medic says, "She's gone." And then he says, "No, look." And there's a spurt of blood, which means her heart's beating. And the medic looks and says, "Oh my God." And she lived. But that's not the story. That's not even the beginning. She comes back to Illinois. She runs for office in the House of Representatives. It doesn't work. But she doesn't stop. She keeps going. She runs for the United States House of Representatives again. She wins. 2.5, 3 years later, a scrawny captain who just got out of the Army is honored by working in her House office. She announces that she's going to run for the United States Senate. It's a close match. The incumbent's there. It's going to be a tough race. She's undeterred. Then, this person, who shall remain nameless, makes a mistake on Twitter and says, Tammy Duckworth doesn't stand up for our veterans. The next day, it's a picture of her walking on 2 prosthetic limbs across the stage. Oh, she stands up, she walks, she runs for our veterans. And since then, she's learned how to fly a fixed-wing aircraft, which for those of you civilian folks, that's an airplane. She's learned how to scuba dive, but maybe even more than this, she's given birth to 2 children. And what she's learned, among many things about being a mom, is that when she is traveling, as she has to do all the time as a United States Senator, she did not have a place to breastfeed in airports. And she thought, my God, if there is no place for a United States Senator to breastfeed in an airport, where's a place for everybody else? And that changed. And now at every medium and large airport in this country, there are lactation rooms for mothers to breastfeed and not go to a bathroom. Soon to be senior senator from our great state of Illinois, our friends to the east, ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth.
Yes, I represent the great state of Illinois, but I also serve all of the American people. And so it's my pleasure and my honor to be your public servant and answer your questions, because you deserve to have your questions answered, not to be avoided. So we're going to have a great discussion today. I just got out of Washington, D.C. after a pretty horrific first session where I watched my colleagues that I could not fathom that they would cast these votes. Votes that take food off the table for children. Votes that raise electricity prices for Americans. Here in Missouri, you should expect about a $680 a year increase in your electricity bills because of what's in the Big Beautiful Bill, or I call it the Big Beautiful Betrayal. I watched one of my Republican colleagues stand up after having just voted 10 days prior to increase our national debt by $4 trillion, stand up on the Senate floor and say that we have to get rid of public television and public radio because we need those $8 billion because there was this national debt. And he did not think it was ironic whatsoever. And also said that Sesame Street was indoctrinating our children in left-wing liberal ideas. If democratic ideas are about treating each other with courtesy, if ideas about making sure that no child in this country goes hungry, if ideas about the dignity of work is respected, if ideas about the fact that the middle class should be able to strive to buy your first home, send your kids to school, have health insurance, and be able to retire with dignity, if those are crazy liberal ideas, then call me a crazy liberal. So my path to the United States Senate may sound very different than the average path, but let me tell you about my story, because you have these stories in your lives. When I was a teenager, my dad, who was in his 50s, lost his job. My dad was a veteran. No one would hire a man in his late 50s. And every year he got older, and they kept saying, oh, you're overqualified, which was a euphemism for you're too old. And by the time he hit 60, no one would have hired a man who was already 60 years old. And so we descended into poverty. And in my public high school, we had a teacher who was the yearbook advisor. And he would keep several of us after school. We loved this man, we loved him. But he, in our 16-year-old brains, where we knew everything at 16, thought this poor man was just a mess. That this poor man, who was a lovely teacher, was just a disorganized mess, because he would always mess up the assignments for the yearbook and have to keep us after school. Probably 3 or 4 nights a week, he would keep us after school. And so we'd have to redo the work that we'd done earlier in the day. And at the end of the night, he'd be like, "Oh guys, I am so sorry. Here's $10. We had a Taco Bell that was right next to our school. Go get yourself some food. Tacos with then two for 99 cents, and then go on home." And it never occurred to us that the kids he was keeping after school were the food stamp kids like myself. And it was the end of the month, and he knew that we were going to go home to no food. And this public school teacher was reaching through his pocket week after week to feed his students. Public school teachers, raise your hand. Teachers, all teachers, thank you. Had he not done that, I was already working after school, because I was the only one in my family who could find a job. My dad was working as a doorman at the department store for tips only. And I had a job after school, handing out flyers to tourists to try to make, and I got a nickel back in pay every time somebody returned one of those flyers. And I would have dropped out of high school were I not being fed a school breakfast every morning and a school lunch every day, and if that teacher had not been there to feed me those last weeks of the month when the food stamps had run out. I would have dropped out to go get a second job or a third job to save my family so we could pay the rent. But because that teacher was there, because SNAP was there, I stayed in high school and I was able to graduate high school. And then because there was Pell Grants and student loans and work study and a second job after school, waitressing, I was able to graduate college. So that when the United States Army came and said, "Are you ready to serve?" I was ready to serve, because those programs were there for me. So I get really angry when Republicans call things like SNAP and money for public schools and school lunch and school breakfast, and they talk about Pell Grants being handouts. Those are not handouts. Those are programs to make America stronger. You know what you have? So we soldiers call Fort Leavenworth, Missouri, Fort Lost in the Woods. Because that's where you first learn land navigation. It's where you send your basic trainees and wander around lost in the woods. The Army, or the DOD overall, over the last several years, has only been able to recruit from 27% of the 18 to 24-year-olds in this country who would qualify to serve in the military. Because 73% of the 18 to 24-year-olds in this country cannot pass a basic entrance examination to go to basic training. And here's what they cannot pass. Number one, they don't have a GED or a high school diploma, and if they do, they can't pass a basic math and English test that's written at the 8th grade level. Number two, they have some sort of childhood health condition that went untreated, usually dental or ADHD or something like that, because they did not have adequate health insurance. Maybe not because they didn't have Medicaid, but because there was not a rural hospital or healthcare facility near where they live. And number three, so a lot of them had some sort of federal conviction tied to the opioid epidemic. That knocks out 73% of the 18 to 24-year-olds in this country. So why are we paying money to buy $100 million fighter jets when we don't have anybody who can read the manual to repair them or fly them? So don't talk to me about public schools being handouts, about Pell Grants being handouts, about food stamps being handouts, about health care being handouts.